In this video, we're going to talk about the things to consider when you're thinking about purchasing a home. Hey everyone, Mariah Taliaferro with Premier Sotheby's. There are a lot of things to think about when you're looking at purchasing a home, but there are really, I've narrowed them down to about 7 things to consider. And there are probably multiple others, and they're not getting into the details of things to consider when you've actually found the home. This is just kind of higher level things to think about. So my biggest recommendation for all my clients is to strengthen your Batna. And a Batna is the best alternative to the negotiation agreement. So really what that means is your alternative. So if you're in a negotiation between a seller and you really want to know, okay, well, what are my alternatives if this doesn't work out? Or if I don't actually get this property for the price that I want. Having that alternative will really help you stick with your guns and know that, hey, I'm not going to budge on my price more than X number of dollars, or I'm not going to accept these terms. It also gives you peace that you have a backup plan. So if you already have a home that you live in, that's a great Batna, because purchasing another home is kind of an option. Working with the right real estate agent will help you consider your Batna and ways to strengthen it. So definitely focus on that. The second thing, and probably the most important part, is to get your finances in order. You do not want to enter the marketplace and start looking at properties and getting attached to them unless you know what you can afford. And you might already know, but you want to either get pre-qualified by a reputable lender or know what your cash is on hand and have what's called a proof of funds letter, which is essentially a letter from the institution that holds your money. And they say, okay, I certify that they can afford a property up to this price. Those 2 things are going to be essential when you find the property and go into the negotiation. Sellers are not going to entertain an offer unless they're accompanied by a pre-approval letter or a pre-qualification letter or a proof of funds letter. This is also going to help you know how much property you can afford, and knowing what the market is in the area that you're looking, whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. And what that means is if it's a seller's market, the seller holds most of the negotiation power. If it's a buyer's market, the buyer holds most of the negotiation power. Whether it's a seller or a buyer's market will also help you understand, okay, well, what are these properties selling for? If they're being listed for, let's say, $1 million, but they end up selling for $1,050,000, and you can only afford up to $1 million, then you know you need to start at $950,000. The third thing you want to do is really get familiar with a contract in the area that you're looking to purchase. There are many different contracts depending on where you're buying. In the area of Florida that I live in, which is Sarasota, there are 2 different types of contracts, and each one is going to be useful for different situations. So you really want to know what your options are. Working with a real estate agent is going to help you with drafting those contracts, but they're also going to advise you on which contract to use and the specific terms to pay attention to. Some markets, you really use an attorney for that. Make a list of your must-haves in the home and put a dollar value to those. So if you must have a pool, but you know that a pool costs you $45,000 or $60,000, then put that in there. Overall, what is that worth to you? If you know that you need 4 bedrooms, but you could probably do 3, think about what it would do to you and your family if you didn't have that 4th bedroom. Again, it's hard to put a dollar figure on that, but try to put a value on each of these items. It'll really help you when you've actually found a property and you're trying to come up with a price. Remember, a price is based off of what someone is willing to pay for it. That's considered the market value of a property. Now, if you're in a market where there's a lot of buyers and they're willing to pay that price, then you're going to have to bump up your price too. However, if you're in more of a buyer's market and there is plenty of inventory, then you really want to look at the costs. Look at what it's costing you to not have the certain things that you want. And also, if it has those things, what value it brings to you. In addition to this list, I would also list out the terms that you know you're not willing to accept. So if you know you need to close on this property and move into it by November 1st, then that is something you cannot negotiate on. If you also know that you can't pay for a property more than X number of dollars, then hey, that should be top of the list. That's your budget. So these are really the things to think about when you're looking to purchase a property. There are many more things to consider when it comes to the actual property that you're purchasing, but it is a very personal thing and not something that we could really put in a video. So if you're not working with an agent already in your market, I highly recommend you start and just have a consultation with them. Finding the right agent is super important, not only for finding the home, but also helping you in the negotiation. If at any time you need recommendations of an agent in your area, we have an amazing network of Sotheby's agents across the country and the world, and we can definitely recommend someone for you. If you have any questions, put your comments below or reach out to me directly. More than happy to assist. Thanks so much for tuning in.